Hey guys, what's going on? You notice anything different? That's right. I got a lava lamp. I'm proud to say that I've been consuming media since I was a baby. I can't help it. I love me a good song, book, movie, whatever I can get my grubby little hands on. But one aspect of media in general that I've never understood is the strict categorization of pieces of art into genres. I just think it's kind of limiting and bland. I don't think every song can just be rock or metal or rap. And even if they can, it's not that descriptive. I mean, yeah, this is rap. Seasons change and our love went cold. But also, so is this. So why box stuff in like that? Hi, I'm Jack, I ramble, and today I want to talk about genres. One of my favorite movies of all time is Jojo Rabbit. It's a beautiful critique of fascist ideologies and rhetoric, and it's a celebration of how love can transcend dogma. I would actually love to make a whole video just about Jojo Rabbit so I can rant about how good it is, but I feel like YouTube would absolutely blast my ass because I'd be talking about stuff like it the whole time, so I'll just put it on the back burner. Anyway, most of the movie is wrapped up in this nice little bow of humor, which I feel like would make a lot of people just describe it as parody or comedy, which is half true, I guess. But if it truly is a silly, funny flick, explain this scene. This movie is far more complex than something like Scary Movie. Not like a scary movie, the movie Scary Movie. And I don't think it can be boiled down to just funny movie. Which, speaking of Scary Movie, that's a flick that can be pretty well categorized into just one genre, parody. Now, does that make it bad? Of course not. Every so often you're in the mood for a movie that's just funny. No added BS, no scene that makes you cry, some good lighthearted popcorn fodder. And I'm not disparaging that. I don't want to come off as one of those film bros who's like, what's that? You enjoyed white chicks? Why? Because it's funny? No, my little baby bitch boy. I do not enjoy such frivolous things. What do I like? Have you seen a Serbian film? I quite enjoyed White Chicks, despite it committing the sin of being a clean-cut cop comedy. Actually, I think movies that are just one thing can be incredibly boring. Take something like Blade Runner. It's a great, gritty, gorgeous movie, but it also comes off as a bit silly, at least to me. Hear me out, it takes itself way too seriously. It's like those kids in high school who think they're so edgy and can't ever laugh at themselves. Yeah, it's cool and all that Ryan Gosling made this same face for 2 hours straight, but like, you gotta have a little fun sometimes. I think a perfect example of this is Little Miss Sunshine. Little Miss Sunshine is top 10 things that exist ever. At its core, it's a movie about a family learning to accept each other for their flaws and differences and supporting their daughter in her dream. Everybody goes on this road trip to a pageant that nobody except like Olive, the daughter, is actually excited about. Seems sweet, and it is, but it's balanced out by being, as your grandpa might say, a gutbuster. Like in the diner scene where the dad is like, hey, daughter of mine, don't eat that ice cream or you'll get fat and ugly. And instead of having the characters be like, no, it's okay, don't listen to him, or having some heavy conversation, they do this.
Olive's not gonna have her ice cream.
Yeah, do you mind if I have a little
Yeah,
bit?
let's dig in.
That looks really good.
Boy, I feel sorry for anybody that doesn't want to enjoy their ice cream so early in the morning.
Oh, that looks good.
Yeah. You sure you don't want to have some, Olive?
Ooh, look how pretty
Those
that
waffles are gonna be awful lonely in there.
is. Watch this.
Wait! Stop!
They don't need to drag the movie down with a heavy-handed, hey, we need to talk. They can keep it light. Moral of the story, fuck you, Richard. But anyway, the whole movie is more serious in concept, while there's a consistent sprinkling of humor, which makes sure that the movie doesn't get bogged down. Like in the climax, where the whole family is dancing to Super Freak by Rick James. It's a really stupid, lighthearted, silly scene, but it serves a pretty wholesome, significant point. Silly scene, serious purpose. Last example, have you seen Bridge to Terabithia? If you have, I'm sure one part of the movie immediately popped into your head. For context, there's this boy and this girl who make up their own little imaginary world to escape their sad real lives, and where they can reimagine their bullies and trials as little goblins they can defeat. It's a bit of a coming of age story, but there's also some like cute little kid romance between the two main characters. And then the girl dies. Yeah, that may sound like a joke, but I promise it's not. It's a crazy turn from the movie to take, and it sets it apart from other like preteen fantasy flicks. It subverts genre tropes because now the two main characters can't get together, and it kind of forces the boy to grow up because the girl died on the bridge to Terabithia. It kind of forces him to face the real world. Going back to the point about genres, the fantasy creatures are fake. Expressly in the movie, it's just their imagination. So does that make it fantasy as a genre? IMDb would say yes, but look at the Spiderwick Chronicles. Chronicles. I always have such a hard time saying that. In the Spiderwick Chronicles, the monsters are real, which sets the tone for the whole plot. But in Bridge to Terabithia, they're just a visualization of the kid's problems. I don't know, I might be disappointed if I wanted to watch like a fantasy movie and instead I got treated to, what? A metaphor? What is this? An allegory? I came here to see elves kill dragons and historically inaccurate knights fight demons. Not this. But one fact that's antithetical to my point is this. These are all the genres commonly given to Jojo Rabbit. It's not just parody like I kind of implied earlier, it's also coming of age, and war, and drama. I think if a movie fits into multiple genres, it should, well, have multiple genres attributed to it. Yeah, this solution doesn't really exist with books. You go into Barnes & Noble or whatever and you see like horror, romance, YA. But this is a bit confining in my opinion. Is this book body horror, eldritch, psychological? Is it a slasher? There's not enough in just horror to really make a point. But worst of all is the manga section. On one hand, it makes sense to have all books of a similar style in one place, i.e. having all the poetry books in one place. But on the other, manga isn't a genre. Take My Hero Academia. It's a coming-of-age high school manga with superpowers. The kids go to school to become superheroes and fight the bad guys along the way. Now contrast that with Parasite, alien invasion body horror. There's a boy, also in high school to be fair, who gets infected with an alien parasite and slowly starts changing as a person because of it. Every book you feel his humanity slip away more and more. There's a dog that gets cut in half and there's people's corpses that are inside out and ripped apart. And then, in My Hero, we have an annoying grape-haired kid. Like, you can't tell me that Yokai Watch should exist in the same section that Food Wars does. You just can't. I'd say this lack of genre specificity is an even bigger problem in books because you can write anything. And in the day and age of the internet, you can publish almost anything too. I mean, if 50 Shades of Grey got written and then got sequels, you need a lot of foundational knowledge to make music. And if you have somebody teach you how to make music, they're likely going to teach you a certain genre or style. Same with high art or movies to an extent. You're likely taught a certain style. But with books, once you have that simple skill and grammar down, you can write anything. You can go off. And that makes it easier to write a genre-defying book. Take Scythe. Scythe is an interesting book, and there's a lot to it, so I'll only go over the pertinent parts. For one, it takes place in a world that is both dystopian and utopian. People don't die, we've perfected life, we've discovered everything we can, there is no war, no sickness, no poverty. It seems great at first. But imagine going through life where nothing you could do could be of significance. You can't develop anything new, you can't discover anything, and you probably won't even die, maybe for hundreds of years. So is it utopian? Yes. But is it also dystopian? Yes. Also, in this world, everything is ruled by an all-knowing AI called the Thunderhead. But again, subverting genre tropes, it's not evil. It's entirely benevolent. So what genre even is this book? Yes, it gets even more complicated with the romantic subplot, the coming-of-age theme for the main characters, and even the political infighting between the Scythes. Yeah, there's a lot to this series, and it gets more complicated after book 1, but it also makes it hard to pin a genre to. Now let me ask you something. Think of the most basic zombie story plot you can think of. Now throw it out of your head. Ladies and gentlemen, World War Z. Instead of scavengers roving the wasteland, picking off zombie hordes and trying to fend for their lives, We have battles, defense lines, coordinated attacks. We have war. World War Z follows a zombie outbreak that kind of spawns a war between the living and the undead. But here, the government doesn't fail, instead it doubles down and fights back. It's a really interesting take on the zombie genre, and among some other things I'm not mentioning here just for time, it feels way more realistic than most zombie survivalist fantasies do. The narrative's unique too, and it adds to that realistic feeling. It's from the perspective of this guy who goes around after the war and interviews like nurses and veterans and survivors in general. It's fiction, written as if it's non-fiction, which I think makes it really interesting. And I don't think you can just pin that into the zombie genre. And honestly, I don't think you should. Let's take this artist by artist, because I have a lot to say. I've only listened to one of Saint Avangeline's albums, but oh my, is it beautiful. There's a lot of metalcore influence, with the guitars having these chugs with a lot of distortion. But there's also a lot of clean guitar, even some more shoegazy stuff with a lot of reverb.
Did you tell me I was beautiful?
When it comes to drums, there's a lot of like hard rock and metal influence, but there's also these songs where these like trappy or like EDM almost drums come in, and it's great. The vocals are most interesting, sliding between these fry screams and these like beautiful, airy, clean vocals. There's a lot going on here, and you can't quite call it just metalcore, or just shoegaze, or just trap. Switching up the vibe quite a bit, Madilyn Mei. I felt like the Spotify AI DJ saying that. Her little artist bio describes her as indie folk / bedroom pop, which is half true, I suppose. Is that gonna be distracting? That assessment used to be more true in her earlier stuff, but she's kind of changed and evolved since then. Every song has these complex, whimsical instrumentals with like ukulele and strings and synth sometimes, and some like sparse production, even some like accordion and electric guitar sometimes. Her vocals too aren't really folksy or poppy, they're kind of their own thing, with a lot of like layers and harmonies and stuff. Sure, some of her stuff is more acoustic, but then songs like Have I Outgrown Minecraft, When the World Ends, and the credits are mostly synth-based. Or what about Yusu Endor? Obligatory line about how I definitely butchered that. I don't even know what to say about Wamat. Jazzy brass, funky bass, percussion that is mostly Senegalese with like talking drums and tamas, but then also some Western drums. There's synth, but also guitars, a lot of vocals, even fucking harmonica. And that's just scratching the surface. I don't even know what's happening, but as I was writing this, I was listening to the album, and I just kept getting distracted. I couldn't focus on writing because of these wonderful fucking tracks. Whatever this is might be an established genre in Senegal, where Yusu is from, or Africa more widely. But I don't know, because he sings in English and Wolof, which is a language spoken in Senegal. And again, he uses both Senegalese and American / like Western instruments, which leads me to believe that this is kind of like a merging of the two. Maybe. I don't really know. But I also don't know what genre you could call this. Jesus, I could go on. There are so many artists that don't abide by genre, but I'll reel myself in. Last one is Blue Smiley, one of my favorite bands. On the surface, it's shoegaze, but it's more than that, at least in my opinion. The tones they get with the guitars is just mind-boggling. I thought for the longest time that they just use synths, but nope. Some of their stuff is definitely shoegaze, but like Happy and Fish are more garage rock or grunge at times. And a lot of their more shoegazy songs are way more bouncy than most shoegaze. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, a lot of people would describe shoegaze as a wall of sound, right? A wall of like just distortion and reverb and everything. While Blue Smiley, at least to me, is more of like a controlled chaos, you know? And I think Air, one of their songs, is a perfect example of this. For the first part, it's like a bouncy, fun rock, but then that distorted guitar comes in and changes the whole vibe with those drums. Then everything slows way down and the lyrics finally kick in. We float here for a little bit with that really funky, cool bass and that, like, again, wild guitar tone until it fades out to just the rhythm. Can you tell I love Blue Smiley? Music, too, has a habit of just creating new genres every time somebody puts out a slightly different song. Seriously, go to Every Noise at Once, which is just a website with every genre ever. There are some insane ones. What is neo grime? Or glitch break? I mean, obviously, just a lot of kinds of metal here. Look at all this is insane. Just how much. I mean, like some of it is just like rock from this area, Ontario indie. But, like some of it is like classic NZ pop, Jalsat, New Isolationism. That's funny because it's like it's alone out here. There's also stuff like Flanders core or parody heavy metal comedy rock. Jesus, that's a mouthful. That's the genre that Max Sabbath is in, which is a heavy metal McDonald's tribute band. I can't believe that string of words just came from my mouth. It kind of addresses what I'm talking about here, but it's kind of also the opposite problem. More genres is not the solution, in my opinion. I understand why genres can be helpful. They provide an understanding of a piece of media before you even consume it. And they can get people into certain pieces of media. Hey, you like West Coast hip-hop? Here you go, you'll probably like this, or this, or this. That was especially helpful back in like the golden age of CDs and vinyls. At the end of the day, if you didn't have a direct recommendation from like a person or a magazine or whatever, you had to trust the rack. But I think we've outgrown that as we can listen to whatever, whenever. Also, when it comes to something that doesn't fit into just one genre or any genre at all, I think it can be counterintuitive to just boil it down into pop. I think it can also limit creativity. I personally make music, and when I set out to make a certain genre, especially if I'm making like a whole album in that style, I find myself just kind of going through the motions. And the drums. And the 145. This is the same song I made last week. I want to see people make things based off of, hey, that sounds cool, not necessarily based off of, well, this is what every single person who makes drum and bass does. And I think genres can hold people back from that creativity. People can't be put in boxes. And if people are a part of their art, then neither can their art. I don't know, I'm just kind of rambling at this point. Alright, freaking smash that like button if you liked it. And if you didn't, freaking smash that like button anyway, man. Subscribe to me for more videos about whatever I feel like, and I'll be back in an indiscriminate amount of time. Ta-ta!